Welcome to Hawthorne.
What if the fanciest dinner you could ever imagine turned out to be a trap? Picture a famous chef, a total genius with food, who decides he's had enough of rich people not really getting his art. What terrible things might he cook up then, not just in the kitchen, but for his guests? Hey everyone, and a big welcome back to the channel. I am so pumped to talk with you today about a movie that seriously got under my skin, but in a good way, a way that makes you think. We're going to talk about the super smart, pretty dark, and honestly really spooky movie called The Menu. We're going to go through the whole shocking story, step by step, from the uneasy start to the explosive end. And then, we'll try to understand all the hidden meanings and the smart points this movie is trying to make about our world. So, if you're ready for a food journey that's like nothing else, one that will make you think as much as it thrills you, please make sure you've hit that subscribe button and let's get ready for what they serve up. The story starts when a small, very rich group of people get on a special boat. They're going to Hawthorne, a super fancy restaurant run by the famous and mysterious chef Julian Slowik. This place is on an island all by itself, and it costs a huge amount of money to eat there, like over $1,000 a person. The movie makes sure we know this isn't just about the money, it means something more. In this group, we meet Tyler. Tyler is a young guy who is completely obsessed with Chef Slowik and fancy food. He's almost shaking with excitement. He's brought along a woman named Margot, who came at the last minute. Right from the start, Margot seems different. She's not impressed by all the fancy stuff and doesn't seem to believe all the hype about Hawthorne. You can tell she feels like she doesn't quite fit in. And honestly, the way she rolls her eyes, that's probably how a lot of us would feel. The other guests are a special bunch, each one picked to show a certain kind of person. There's Lillian Bloom, a very important food critic. Her reviews can make or break a restaurant. She's with her editor Ted, who pretty much just agrees with everything she says. Then we see George, a movie star who isn't as famous as he used to be. He's trying hard to still seem important, and his assistant, Felicity, looks tired of dealing with him. And then there are the finance bros, Soren, Dave, and Bryce, loud, rich guys who act like they own the world. Finally, there are Richard and Anne Leibrandt, an older, super rich couple who have eaten at Hawthorne many times. They seem bored, like nothing can impress them anymore. Every single one of these people, we soon find out, means something very specific and bad to Chef Slowik. When they get to the island, Elsa meets them. She runs the dining room at Hawthorne and is super serious and a little creepy. She gives them a tour, but it feels less like a welcome and more like she's telling them the rules of some strange club. She shows them the plain building where the staff lives, almost like they're part of a cult. She shows off the perfect gardens and talks about how all the food comes from the island. It all shows that the chef is in complete control of everything. The place is amazingly beautiful, but also cold and a bit scary, like a hospital that's too clean. You get this feeling that something is wrong, like you're being watched and judged before you even take a bite. You just know this isn't going to be a normal fancy dinner, right? It feels like walking into a beautiful, but very dangerous trap. And so, the dinner starts. Chef Slowik himself comes out to talk about each course. He's a big, impressive guy who is also very quiet and intense, which is pretty scary. He gives these dramatic speeches that are very personal and get more and more upsetting. The food itself is wild. It's more like weird art than actual food you'd want to eat. The first course is called The Island. It's just one scallop on a rock with some plants, meant to show how alone everything is there. The guests, especially Tyler, say it's all amazing. They talk about every little taste, trying to sound smart. But Margot isn't buying it. She doesn't play their game. She asks for something simple. Bread. Tyler is horrified that she'd ask for something so normal, and Chef Slowik gives her this long, strange look. It's a small thing, asking for bread, but it's like she's quietly fighting back. She doesn't want the next dish, a breadless bread plate, which is just sauces with no bread at all. That moment, when she asks for bread, changes things. Chef Slowik knows she's different. As they get more food, the night gets darker and darker, and then it gets truly terrifying. One dish is called Memory. It comes with tortillas that have secrets about the guests printed on them with a laser, like that Mr. Leibrandt cheated on his wife. It shows everyone's private business and proves Slowik somehow knows everything about them. Then comes a dish called Man's Folly. For this one, a young cook named Jeremy gives a sad speech about how his dreams of being a great chef were ruined. Then, right in front of everyone, he shoots himself in the head. It's horrible. Chef Slowik just calmly says that this is all part of the show, part of the menu. That's when everyone knows this isn't just a weird dinner. It's a planned horror show, and they are the main event. People start to freak out. The rich finance guys try to act tough and say they want to leave, but the staff are all completely loyal to Chef Slowik, like scary robots. They stop them easily. That's when the guests really get it. They are trapped. Their money and power mean nothing here. Chef Slowik then tells them his terrible plan. He says that everyone in the restaurant, all the guests, himself, and all his staff will be dead by the end of the night. Why? Because he's totally given up on his art. He feels like the very people he cooks for have ruined it, made it cheap, and taken all the joy out of it for him. He explains that each guest was chosen because they represent something he hates about the food world. Lillian, the critic, gave him a bad review years ago that shut down a restaurant he loved. George, the movie star, makes bad, meaningless movies. The finance guys only care about money, which ruins art. The Lee Brandts are the rich, bored customers who don't really care about his food anymore. And then there's Tyler. Poor, obsessed Tyler. It turns out Tyler knew this was a death trap all along. He wanted to be part of Slowik's big final act so badly that he brought Margot, knowing she would probably die. Tyler knows all the facts about food, but doesn't understand anything about its heart or soul. Chef Slowik completely destroys him, makes him cook to show how talentless he really is. And Tyler, totally shamed and broken, goes off and hangs himself. It's a really tough scene to watch. It shows how ugly obsession can be. Through all this horror, Margot stays different. Chef Slowik is confused by her and interested in her at the same time. He finds out her real name is Erin, and she's an escort, a sex worker. Tyler hired her because his original date couldn't make it. She wasn't supposed to be on his death list because she's not part of the rich world he hates. This fact gives her a strange kind of power. She doesn't worship him like Tyler did, and she doesn't seem as scared as the others. Most importantly, she sees that underneath the scary artist, there's a broken man. She argues with him, questions his plan to kill everyone, and refuses to just be a quiet victim. Some of the male guests try to fight their way out, but it's a total failure. It just shows how weak they are without their money and status. Chef Slowik even plays a cruel game where he lets the men try to run away into the dark woods, knowing they have no chance of escape. It's just another part of his sick show. The real change in the movie, the moment that turns everything around, comes because Margot is smart and, surprisingly, kind of understands him. She remembers that earlier, Slowik talked sadly about how he used to enjoy just making simple food that people loved before he became a famous brand. So, she does something brave. She tells him that all his fancy, complicated food has left her feeling hungry. She doesn't want his art anymore. She wants real food. She orders a plain cheeseburger and fries. This simple order totally throws Slowik off. It's so normal, so not Hawthorne, but it's also exactly the kind of food he secretly misses making. He makes the burger himself, and you can see he's careful and almost happy doing it, totally different from how he made the other weird dishes. Margot takes a bite, and you can see she truly loves it, not because it's fancy, but because it's good. And in Slowik's eyes, you see a tiny spark of the happy cook he used to be. It's an amazing moment. The power of simple, honest enjoyment cuts through all his pain and anger. Then, after enjoying the burger, she does something even smarter. She asks to take the rest to go. This simple thing, a happy customer taking leftover food home, is like she's fixing something that was broken in Slowik for a long, long time. Because she, out of all those people, actually connected with his food in a real human way, he lets her leave. Elsa, his super loyal manager, tries to stop Margot, but Slowik quietly says yes. Margot got away, not by fighting, but by understanding what the sad artist inside him really needed. To just make someone happy with his food. The last big, terrible dish for the guests who are left is called s'mores. It's a horrible, live-action dessert. The guests are dressed up with marshmallows and chocolate, becoming part of the food as the whole restaurant is set on fire. Chef Slowik and his staff stand with them, all burning together in their strange, fiery end. Margot, safe on the boat going back to the mainland, watches Hawthorne burn. She unwraps her cheeseburger, takes a bite, the only one who survived. She didn't fight the monster. She reminded him, just for a second, that he was once human. The Menu came out near the end of 2022. It was directed by Mark Mylod, who also directed a lot of episodes of the television show Succession. If you've seen that show, you'll see some of the same smart, sharp humor about rich people in power in this movie. Lots of critics loved The Menu, especially because the story was so clever and the actors were amazing. Ralph Fiennes, who plays Chef Slowik, is incredible. He's scary, sad, and powerful all at once. And Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Margot, is so good as the smart, tough survivor. They both got nominated for Golden Globe Awards, which are big movie awards, because they were that good. So, what's this movie really about under all the fancy food and scary stuff? Well, The Menu is making fun of the big differences between rich and poor people, how silly, super fancy restaurants can sometimes be, and the often messed up relationship between people who make art and the people who buy it. Hawthorne, the restaurant, is like a beautiful prison where creativity has turned sour and angry. The movie asks, what happens when art becomes so expensive and complicated that regular people can't enjoy it or connect with it anymore? Is Chef Slowik just a crazy bad guy, or is he a sad figure who was pushed too far by a world that cared more about his fame than his passion? The movie seems to say that when artists care more about being fancy than making something with heart, and when people only care about art because it's expensive or makes them look good, then everyone ends up feeling empty. The sins of the guests, the critic being too proud, the movie star being vain, the money guys being greedy, Tyler just worshiping without thinking, these aren't just their own problems. They show how our world can sometimes crush the spirit of people who try to create something beautiful. The really smart thing about The Menu is that it's a scary thriller, but also a story with a deeper message that makes you think about life. It makes us ask, what's art really for? And what happens when the artist decides the audience just doesn't get it anymore? This movie really stays with you after you watch it. It makes you think about what we buy, why we like certain things, and if all that fancy stuff is really worth it. Chef Slowik's solution, killing everyone, is obviously horrible. But his anger about his life's work being turned into just another product, about being a brand instead of a cook, feels pretty real in our world today. And Margot getting out alive, not by fighting, but by asking for something simple and human, gives us a little bit of hope, or at least shows us that being real can sometimes save you, even when things are incredibly dark. It's a reminder that sometimes the best connections we make are over the simplest things. I'd really love to hear what you guys thought about The Menu. Which part of the dinner or which character really stuck in your mind? Do you think Chef Slowik was just evil, or was there something sad about him that you could kind of understand? Tell me all your thoughts in the comments below. I'm excited to read what you think. Thanks so much for watching this with me.